From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight, former President Donald Trump and 18 of his associates have been indicted by an Atlanta grand jury in a significant racketeering case. The indictment accuses Trump and his aides of orchestrating a criminal enterprise to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. Charges were brought by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. They include a variety of actions aimed at subverting the election, such as spreading false information, harassing election workers, and soliciting officials to violate their oaths. This is the fourth criminal case against Trump in recent months. Unlike federal charges, state charges would not be subject to potential presidential pardons if Trump were to be reelected in 2024. The indictment lists ways in which the defendants allegedly obstructed the election process, including lying to officials, creating fake pro-Trump electors, and engaging in a cover-up. The charges draw from events in multiple states, including Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. The indictment's focus includes the harassment of Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman, who was falsely accused of election crimes. The indictment cites up to 161 separate acts prosecutors claim were part of an alleged criminal conspiracy. Acts range from false testimonies by Trump's allies to his own phone call to the Georgia Secretary of State urging him to find more votes. Trump's lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, and former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, are also facing charges under Georgia's racketeering statute. The FBI and Philadelphia law enforcement authorities have detained a 17-year-old Muslim boy who allegedly became radicalized on the internet. Police allege the teen purchased materials that could be used to build bombs. The suspect is said to have been associated with Katibat al-Tawheed wal-Jihad, a group close to al-Qaeda. He is charged with possession of weapons of mass destruction, criminal conspiracy, arson, attempting criminal mischief, and recklessly endangering another person. Prosecutors will seek to charge the juvenile as an adult. A Montana state judge ruled in favor of 16 young residents who claimed the state violated their constitutional rights by encouraging fossil fuel extraction. The plaintiffs, ranging in age from 5 to 22, argued the Montana Environmental Policy Act violates the Montana Constitution. They claim the law prevents the state from assessing the climate impacts of mining projects. The judge agreed with the plaintiffs, saying MEPA has prevented the state from fulfilling its constitutional duty to protect its citizens from the harmful effects of climate change. The ruling is a major victory for climate change activists and could have significant implications for other lawsuits against fossil fuel development. Attorneys for the plaintiffs called the ruling a turning point in this generation's efforts to protect the planet from the devastating effects of man-made climate chaos. The plaintiffs are all Montana residents affected by climate change. They testified about their own experiences with air pollution, extreme weather events, and other climate change impacts. The state argued its greenhouse gas emissions are relatively low and it is not responsible for climate change. The death toll from the Hawaii wildfire has risen to 96, making it the deadliest wildfire in the U.S. in more than a century. The fire broke out Wednesday morning in the coastal town of Lahaina. It has destroyed more than 2,200 buildings and left thousands homeless. Many residents say they were not warned about the fire, and anger is growing over the government's response. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono called for an investigation into why emergency sirens on the island were not activated. The fire is still burning and the death toll is expected to rise. The government is being urged to improve its emergency response system. Hirono said she will not make excuses for this tragedy. She will wait for the investigation's outcome. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier appealed to those who have missing relatives to provide DNA samples to speed up the identification process. Pelletier says cadaver-sniffing dogs still have a huge area to search for hundreds of people that are still missing. Dozens of U.S. news organizations have condemned a police raid on a local newspaper and editor's home in Kansas. The raid was conducted by 5 Marion Police Department officers and 2 county sheriff's deputies. The raid on the record occurred as the newspaper investigated allegations of sexual misconduct against Police Chief Gideon Cody. The raid contributed to the death of 98-year-old co-owner Joan Meyer, who was stressed beyond her means and overwhelmed by hours of shock and grief. The Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press argued the raid violated federal law and the First Amendment. The police department acknowledged federal privacy law protects journalists from most searches of newsrooms by federal and state officials. It noted, however, the law provides an exception when journalists are themselves suspected of the crime that is in the subject of the search. The warrant signed by the 8th Judicial District Judge Laura Villar authorized the search for evidence of identity theft and criminal use of a computer. Eric Meyer, Joan Meyer's son, told the Kansas Reflector Police in Marion County, Kansas, stormed our offices and seized servers, computers, and personal cell phones of employees. A Muslim passenger was subjected to an emotionally charged encounter with airline staff after a harrowing security ordeal. The incident involving United Airlines occurred at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Video footage has surfaced on social media showing the interaction between the Muslim traveler and an airline employee. The flight was en route to Newark, New Jersey. The viral video shows the visibly distraught passenger trying to explain his delay to an airline employee. He claims he was subjected to an intrusive security check at the Israeli airport. The video, originally posted on TikTok, has since been viewed more than 2.4 million times and received more than 8,000 comments. The passenger insists the delay was beyond his control as he had been singled out for extra security measures, including being forced to strip naked by security personnel. The passenger bursts into tears and expresses his distress at the treatment he has endured. He apologizes to fellow passengers and explains his delay was not his fault, but a consequence of the actions of the security personnel. Many comments expressed sympathy for the passenger's traumatic experience and condemned his disrespectful treatment. We have more details on the raid of a Palestinian school in the West Bank coming up after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. A group of Jewish settlers raided a Palestinian school in the West Bank. According to Palestine's official Wafa news agency, Jewish settlers raided the Rasatin school in the eastern Ramallah area, home to Bedouin communities. They broke the windows of the school. In October 2020, Israel decided to demolish the school because it was in Zone C and did not have a building permit. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the raid by settlers on the school. The ministry called on the U.S. and the international community to do their part in protecting educational institutions. Since the beginning of this year, the West Bank has witnessed frequent raids and attacks by Jewish settlers under the protection of Israeli forces. The death of Delwar Hossein Sayyidi, a prominent Islamic scholar and vice president of the opposition Jamaat-e-Islami party in Bangladesh, has sparked nationwide protests. The 83-year-old died of a heart attack while in prison. He had been convicted by a controversial war crimes court for acts committed during the 1971 Liberation War with Pakistan. Following his death, thousands of protesters marched, chanting anti-government slogans. Sayyidi's supporters blamed the government, led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, for his inadequate medical treatment in prison. The Jamaat-e-Islami party accused authorities of making him a martyr without proper treatment. Sayyidi played an important role in the party's transformation from a banned group that supported Pakistan during the war to a major force in Bangladeshi politics. In 24 hours, the Tunisian Coast Guard foiled 13 attempts by boats carrying illegal migrants and rescued at least 700 people, including 5 Tunisian families with children. Among those rescued, Rida Haji said the situation in Tunisia was extremely difficult. She said some people are so desperate that they try to throw themselves and their children into the sea during the rescue operation. The Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights said more than 900 Tunisian migrants have disappeared this year while trying to make the dangerous journey to Europe. Statistics show from the beginning of the year to July 35, 134 Tunisian immigrants entered Italy illegally. There has been a sharp increase in the number of people fleeing poverty and poor governance in their home country. Many of them are unaware the journey across the Mediterranean often is a trap set by human traffickers who abandon them on the open sea. The Tunisian National Guard has stepped up its efforts to combat irregular migration. The former British ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Sherrod Cooper-Coles, has been accused of racism. Cooper-Coles, who holds a senior position at HSBC, allegedly told Oxford students, "The Arab mind is empty." The former diplomat made his comments in an impromptu speech welcoming students to the university. He also reportedly said he wished he had learned Chinese instead of Arabic because China was apparently more interesting. Several attendees at the dinner condemned Cooper-Coles' remarks, calling them racist and offensive. Cooper-Coles rejected the accusations, saying his remarks were taken out of context. He added that his remarks did not reflect the views of HSBC. In the southeastern European country of Montenegro, 2 incidents targeting Muslims in religious dress occurred just days apart this month. A Kuwaiti woman wearing an Islamic headscarf with her family were pelted with an alcoholic drink from a hotel balcony in Budva. And just 2 days later, a man insulted a teenager in a burkini and denied her access to a swimming pool on the beach. The incidents cast a shadow over Montenegro's reputation of religious tolerance. Human rights activist Alexander Zetkovic said Islamophobia, and especially gender-based Islamophobia, is pervasive in Montenegro. About 1/5 of Montenegro's 620,000 residents identify themselves as Muslim. In Budva, an 18-year-old Austrian citizen of Serbian descent was fined €250 for brazen and reckless behavior. Almost 82% of Arab youth consider Turkey an ally, 12% see it as an adversary, and less than 1% as an enemy. The results of the 15th annual survey of Arab youth show 80% also consider China an ally. While 72% of respondents see the U.S. as an ally, 27% consider it an adversary, and 12% classify it as an enemy nation. The survey was conducted by an independent communications company, Asta, among Arab youth in 53 cities in 18 Middle Eastern and North African states. For most Arab youth surveyed, or 86%, Israel is an adversary, while 13% consider it an ally. Of the 86% who called Israel an adversary, 80% consider it a hostile country. The poll was conducted from March 27th to April 12th. It included 3,600 young Arabs, the largest sample to date, in face-to-face interviews. 1/3, or 33%, believe the U.S. exerts the most influence in the region, followed by the United Arab Emirates, 11%, and Saudi Arabia and Israel, which rank third at 10%. India marked its 77th Independence Day Tuesday amid disturbing reports of persecution of minorities and human rights violations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi kicked off the celebrations with a speech from the ramparts of the famed Red Fort, the seat of power of the Muslim Mughal Empire. He said the government was making every effort to restore peace in the northeastern state of Manipur. More than 150 people have been killed in violence between 2 communities in that state in the last 3 months. Modi was criticized for not commenting on Manipur for weeks during the violence. He referred to recent reports that India had overtaken China as the world's most populous country with 1.4 billion people. He cited demography, democracy, and diversity as India's strengths. Critics say democracy and diversity are under threat in India. Modi didn't mention the recent anti-Muslim riots on the outskirts of the capital, New Delhi, and the high-tech city of Gurugram. He also ignored rampant hate speech by members of his party. Modi's BJP government has the homes and businesses of Muslims arbitrarily demolished because they were accused of stoning a Hindu procession. In a separate event, Chief Justice of India Chandrachud referred to arbitrary arrests and criticized threats of demolition. Chandrachud addressed a gathering at the Supreme Court. He said institutions such as the media, bureaucracy, political parties, and nonprofit organizations play an important role in developing a constitutional democracy. All these institutions have been under stress in India since 2014. Human rights group Sabrang India notes concerted efforts to persecute Muslims and marginalize them through economic boycotts and home demolitions. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.